All right, I think I got this thing working now. I was having some microphone problems. But this is going to be my introduction. What this is going to be about is kind of like briefly who I am from when I was little, growing up. I'm just skipping through stuff. There's a few things that happened. One very interesting thing, I'll explain that. It's kind of in the beginning, all the way up until where I moved to Rome, and that'll be the end of this video. But it's pretty important to check it out. I got some really good stories in here I'm gonna share with you all along the way of just trying to live life and make it in America, land of the free, where all my dreams come true. But anyway, all right, let's get started here. Where are we at? I hope this goes through. As I was growing up, I was kind of quiet, a little bashful. I'd go to school. Every time I went to school, I always felt so weird. I just didn't want to be there. Almost kind of like, when I get there, I'd have almost would want tears run out of my eyes because I just didn't want to be there. It didn't matter what school it was. I was going to a lot of different schools, but mainly, but anyway, yeah. Oh, I just didn't want to be there. I just didn't like it. It's dull, it's boring. Everybody agreed with that. Same thing over and over. But here I am. Anyway, I was born in Milwaukee, West Dallas, Milwaukee. I think we're still in Milwaukee here. Moved to Green Bay. As I was growing up, the reason I'm showing this here is you can see how dark blue that sky is. As I was growing up, I always looked up at the stars. And we didn't have cell phones and video games and things like that, so a lot of times we'd spend outside looking up at the clouds and picking out figures, like rabbits and owls and horses and things like that out of the Simpson clouds. That's what they call them nowadays, because you rarely ever see them anymore. Still do, but not as much as we used to. But and the sky was always a really deep, dark blue, and I always looked at the stars at night because everything was just so cool and so bright. There was just billions and trillions of stars, and you could see them all. It was just such a crisp, clear sky. It was awesome. But sometimes I would look up the deep, dark blue sky during the daytime, and I'd think to myself, man, it's such a dark blue, but why can't we see the stars through it? Because it's so dark. But I don't know. I just went along with it because you couldn't, but at least you could see them at night. So anyway, moved to Green Bay. My dad was building a house in Pearson, Wisconsin. We eventually moved up there and started the 5th grade. This is the house here. In the front here's, I think we're like 11 years old. We tore up the woods, I should say. We had all this back here and plenty more to run that Jeep around in, and some other things, go-karts, four-wheelers, things like that. But there was a time there when this happened. I'm going to try and explain this the best I can. But let's start out with this. Have you ever been out drinking, or maybe not drinking, and you're at an unfamiliar place, and you pass out, or you fall asleep, and you wake up in the middle of the night, and you look around for about a minute or so, kind of gather your marbles. You're still unfamiliar with where you are, but you lay back down and you go to sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're still at the same place, But you still have that memory. You still remember waking up and looking around. But, you know, you're half asleep, but yet you still remember it. Well, this is the same case with this right here. Something I never forgot. It would always, the memory would always reoccur. Enough times, something would trigger it, and I would remember it. But I woke up one morning and I was like, what the hell? It was weird. That wasn't a dream, because it was so real. But and I don't know, like I said, this stuck with me. But let me tell you what happened. I woke up and I felt myself on like a hospital bed. It was kind of hard, actually. Not too bad though, I guess. But I sat up, and as I was sitting up, I was looking to the right, and it was a dimly lit room, and it was strange. I saw some cabinets on my right, and as I swung my head to the left, I was following some cabinets. I seen 3 people in front of me. I turned to the left. There was some pole or something right in the middle, just to the left of the bed, kind of off the corner, a few feet away. I looked to my left, and it was kind of empty space over there, except for one cabinet. I turned my head back around because I saw 3 people. And I turned my head back around, and there were 3 people leaned over at a counter with a little light in front of them, and they were looking at something, and they were all leaning over. I got about 2 seconds on them. They all 3 stood up and turned around at the same time and looked at me. I was looking at them, and I was thinking, you know, petite, cute, long hair. Who are they? Their eyes were a little bit bigger. Something about the ears, I just couldn't see them though because the hair covered them up. But we just sat there and we looked at each other for, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, maybe 30. And I just felt comfortable, and I laid back down, and I went to sleep. That morning I woke up, and I never forgot it. Never said anything about it, but just never forgot it. It just, like I said, it would pop in my head every once in a while, and I'd just be like, man, that was weird. But anyway, this comes up later. Oh, and the room was it was round. It was probably about 80 feet around. And that happened right up here in northern Wisconsin. I'm going to show you this place. This is where I pretty much grew up. We're about 9, 10 years old on up. I mean, we can see all the woods. We're just surrounded by woods. During this time, we were doing some roof work, putting a roof on actually, and we always had what they call the Blue Angels. Or military jets. They would fly up, and we were on the roof, and we've seen this like 4 or 5 times, and it would come flying up, as you can see that my hand, the cursor there, and go right past the house, just to the right here, over the treetops, sometimes just over the open area. The pilot would be looking at us. We could see him, no problem. And treetop height. And well, this is just me growing up here. I looked like when I was a teenager, just a old woods boy, redneck boy. But anyway, it was weird, you know. It was right about that same time. I just wanted to mention that because I just thought it was kind of weird because I don't believe in coincidences. I don't think there's no such thing as coincidence. But anyway, made it through school, graduated. Spelt that wrong. I don't know how I hit a U. Anyway, and I moved to Lakeland, Florida. I worked at potato farms. You know, I drank a little bit, worked on vehicles, things like that, you know, and had some pretty nice old cars. Moved down to Florida, met a girl, real sweetheart. That's her right there. like 6 months apart. I was 6 months older than her. Real sweet girl. We had a really good life. We both went to church, and I kind of wanted to check out a church. There's me. A little bit of an ego, not too bad. I always had lots of integrity. But we joined it. She was Lutheran or Catholic? I think Catholic, actually. And but I wanted to join this Christian church. My mom took me to the church when I was younger, when I was like around 10. That's right, we moved up north when I was 11. But 10 years old, we were living in Green Bay. She took us to a Christian church. I kind of remembered it, but that was pretty much about it. I moved down to Florida. I'm kind of curious about the truth, what this planet's all about. I'm done with high school, kind of got that out of my mind, and I'm getting a little more curious, because I always look up at the stars and things like that, and there were never any answers. They never said anything in school or high school about it, and which struck me kind of funny, but I didn't think too hard on it. But I joined this church. Went there for a whole year. It was a Christian church. It was a big church. I thought I was going to really learn a lot of things there. I got in there. I quit smoking cigarettes. Cut back on the weed. And enjoyed life. Everything was going good, going smooth. Got into bodybuilding. Making great money. So was my wife. But we went to church, and for a full year. By the time we got to the end of that year, the preacher was preaching something, and all of a sudden it struck a bell with me. He's like, he's repeating himself from the beginning of the year. He's talking about the same thing, and he's always talking about the same thing. Pay your tithes, and we haven't really learned anything in a whole year. And he sometimes he'd have people go down on the floor, and he'd put his hand on them, and some would fall collapsing, passing out, like they're being touched by the Holy Spirit and what have you. I finally got up enough nerve to go down there and try it. I kind of nudged my wife that was sitting next to me. I said, I'm going to go down there and try this. She just looked at me and smiled. So I went down there, and he's working his way down to me. People are passing out on the floor or whatever, and the preacher gets to me, and he puts his hand on me. He says a bunch of things and pushes me. I take one step back, and I catch myself, and I'm like, what the hell? And I look to my right, I look to my left, I look back at him, and his eyes are just huge. And he goes on to the next person. And I look down to my left, and these people are fainting and passing out, and I didn't feel no miracle. I felt like an idiot. So I turned around, I walked back up, and went up to my wife. I said, come on, let's go. And that was the last time I went to church. I left out of there. Didn't go back. Took some things with me. The most obvious, just be a good person and be the best you can be. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It was kind of always been my rule. Help others. I was always like that. Didn't like others picking on people, and things like that. Would stop things like that. Brothers were the same way. But went out of there, got out of there. Life went on. I ended up getting divorced. I wanted it. I thought I got married too young, and just kind of went out and ventured life and meeting people from all around the world down there in Florida. Just sowing some oats and things like that. And all the people I've met, I would always get serious with them sometimes and talk to them about their religions. Over the years, I come to find out that all the religions basically sounded the same, and but they were just a little bit different, and that struck me very odd. I saw a problem and I knew I'd figure it out in time. But I'm living life, whatever. Things are going on. I'm having fun, having a ball. Let's see. This is Daytona Beach, 1988. I remember being out at the end of this pier, and I was looking out over the ocean. You know, I've never really been to the ocean. I've been there a few times already, but I was standing out there one day, and my wife was looking around down here. I think maybe she went to get something, but I was standing up here, and I was just looking out over the water. I was looking for a ship. Just looking, and we had a deep, dark blue sky still. But, you know, it's the late 80s. And as I'm looking, scanning over the top of the water, just looking for ships or whatever, just looking, I noticed this fog out there. It's kind of weird looking fog. Not really fog, but I can't see it real well because it's way, way out there. So I stick a quarter in one of the machines so you can see out there. And I'm looking, and I see this fog. It still doesn't look like fog. It's just kind of weird. It's got a kind of a weird color to it. Not so much, but, you know, and then right above it was the deep, dark blue sky. But, I don't know, just something I remembered kind of struck me funny. It had this grayish look to it, you know. But anyway, like I said, everything was still looking pretty normal. Basically, this fog here, I got a picture coming up here. I'll show you what it looked like. So you'll just have to follow with me. But yeah, it was so weird. It just all across the water. I never noticed anything like that. But just didn't think too much of it. Picture will be here in a second. I forgot to start the video a little bit sooner. Jeez. Anyway, you can see that white line there above the water. That's kind of the fog, but it blended in. It wasn't sharp like that is. And the way it blended was, excuse me, it was like this area right here. It was this kind of fog looking. It was weird. Anyway, something I remembered. And I met a guy down there, Charlie. He's a 56-year-old man when I met him. He talked a lot about UFOs, Illuminati, Anunnaki, and things like that. I actually I worked for him for a good year, and he taught me a lot of stuff. I actually was one of the only guys in the crew that actually hung out with him and listened to him. It was interesting. Everything he said made sense, and I'd go over to his house and he'd show me things and show me proof. Very interesting stuff. Some of the proof he got was from Waco, Texas. I have a story on that, but we'll stick to this one. But yeah, someday I'll talk about that story. Actually, I'm going to talk about all my stories separately, but we're going to stick to this UFO stuff. And a few other things I'm going to make mention of, like the sky and what have you. But he taught me a lot of things. We were working on some dormitories up in Gainesville, Florida, putting the roofs on up there, and I think it was 1991. And me and him would take lunch breaks together, so we'd go sit at the motel room and eat lunch, and he'd like watching CNN because he didn't believe what they were saying, but he'd listen to it so he could read in between the lines, is what he told me. So I'm learning with him, checking it out. And the ambassador to Iraq was on there, CNN Live. And the ambassador was pissed off. And it was, like I said, it was live. And the ambassador starts, this, I'll never forget it. He says, there's a big communication gap between you and the American people. And he started to say something about why we were over there. CNN cut them off, spun their chairs, it was live, spun their chairs and changed the subject and started talking about something else. I mean, it was not cut. It was just spun their chairs. My jaw dropped. he stomps his foot and points at the TV and says, see, I told you. And wow. But anyway, right then and there, I realized everything he'd tell me about the Illuminati was true. It was strange. But after that evening, he let me go. I didn't work for him anymore. He came and visited me about a month or so after that. Had a few beers with me. We talked, and then I never seen him again. Really good guy, though. He taught me a lot. But anyway, everything he taught me was while I was in Lakeland, Florida, just before I was moving back up to Wisconsin. There was a bunch of us. We all went out one night on a Wednesday. We were all bored. It's like 7 of us, and we went out. Here, I'm gonna quick tell you this story too. We met this couple, and it was their 75th wedding anniversary. They came in there and they were celebrating it. Very good shape them two people were in, husband and wife. So the girls had a good time with him. They danced with his wife, and he was out there dancing a little bit too. And mainly he sat up at the bar, talked with me, and we talked about things. And there was at one point I asked him a question. I was like, hey, I said, do you mind if I ask you a personal question? He's like, sure, go ahead. I was like, hey, what's it like getting old? He kind of spun his head down, looked at his drink that was in his hands, and he kind of looked up and he goes, well, I'm a little bit wiser. He goes, I still think the same, but I'm a little bit wiser. But my body's going to hell. And he looks at me. I thought it was kind of cute, and it kind of stuck with me. Anyway, we get home and we get back to Lakeland, because that was in Winter Haven, Florida. We get back to Lakeland, and we're all standing outside in the front yard and looking down over Lakeland, and we saw this rainbow star. It was like over by Miami, Fort Lauderdale. This thing was huge, just coloring like that. It was first time I ever really seen a rainbow star. Over the years, I would start seeing more and more and more of them, because like I said, I always looked up at the stars, so I was pretty familiar with them. I didn't know where everything was. I was just looking, But these rainbow stars, over the years, there's more and more of them. I always thought they were satellites, because there was just more and more showing up over the years, and I just thought it was us sending up satellites. But anyway, we were watching this thing, and then all of a sudden I look up, and there's a Pleiades star system, which I didn't know was a Pleiades star system. It was just this cluster of stars I always noticed. But I pointed it out to everybody, and I said, hey, you guys, look at that. And all the way around this was like a cluster of lights, like thousands or hundreds, maybe 1,000 little lights, all just swarming around this little area right here, in just a perfect circle almost. And every once in a while you'd see 1 or 2 or 3 take off. And we were all seeing it, and we were watching. We were like, wow, that is weird. Me and the girl I was dating, we stayed out there the longest. We watched it for about 2.5, 3 hours. And finally, when it was all said and done, there was this cluster of stars here. But it was so weird. It was weird. It was like a beehive of lights. But just something I saw, cool. What the hell was that? Swamp gas, maybe? I ended up moving back to Wisconsin. In the process of moving back up here, I'd come up and was going back down. I had some work down in Miami to do, some tile jobs that were well worth going back down there for. Still with my second wife, and I had my youngest brother Troy with me. We were in Amherst at my dad's. We just left, pulled over the side of the road, state highway there, heading back to Pearson or Crandon, and my wife points out a triangle ship. I couldn't get my eyes on it right away, but then all of a sudden it started moving, and when she said it was pointing, then I finally got my eyes on it, and we watched this triangle ship, just the lights anyway, go across the sky and leave. Alright, what the hell was that? That was interesting. Anyway, noted. took off, went to Crandon for, just remember to, no big deal. Let's see. Then I moved, let's see. I went back down to Florida, did some work. Ended up leaving the wife down there. She was up with me here for a little while, but we ended up splitting up. Things just weren't working out. So anyway, I'm back up in Wisconsin. Get back up January. It's freaking cold as hell. Spring started to come. I moved down to Stevens Point, worked at this one restaurant. Then I got some tile work down in Madison with Molly Tile. And as I'm living in, I moved in this little upstairs apartment in Waterloo, Wisconsin. Got settled in, doing tile work, getting back on my feet again. I got my brother Troy coming down. I want to get him in tile. I think he was only 16 at the time. But he was coming down. I took him to church, a small church. I thought maybe I'd try a small church up in Wisconsin. This is a really good story. You guys are going to like this. And I've learned things here and there from talking to people, But anyway, there's this little church, little Christian church. I'd go check it out. Maybe this preacher will be really good and he'll be a better teacher or something. Teach me something that they didn't in Florida. But brother Troy gets down there and I say, hey, let's go to this church. Let's go check it out. Talk to him and he's like, all right. So we go there. We go to the church and we meet everybody. It's nice little, it's kind of the same stuff, you know what I mean? But it's a small church, kind of nice. Met the preacher, got to talk, and he found out that he lived about a half a block from me. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, hey, what are you doing this evening? I don't know. He goes, why don't you come on over and we'll have Bible study? He just kind of smiled a little bit, and I was, sure, why not? I said, I'll bring my little brother. All right, good, sounds good. So I went home, ate dinner. Did my thing for the day, ate dinner, went over to his house, brought my brother Troy with me, and we sit down at his kitchen table, and he's sitting on my left, and I'm on his right, and he opens up the Bible, and he starts doing the Bible study. I've been in a couple of Bible studies before that, and it's the same old rigmarole, same old Bible study stuff. And all of a sudden, this idea, bing, this light went off and popped in my head. I said, hey, I got an idea. He's like, what's that? I said, let me run home. I want to grab something. He's like, well, what do you want to grab? I said, well, I'm going to grab my Bible. I got an idea. I want to check something out. He kind of shrugs his shoulders. He's like, all right. I said, I'll be right back. I left my brother there. I ran there. I got my Bible. I come back. And I set it down at the kitchen table, and I sit back down by him. He goes, all right, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, open your Bible up. I said, let's look at our Bibles. I was looking at yours, and it reminded me of mine. I want to see if our Bibles are the same. And looks kind of curious, and he shrugs his shoulders. He's like, all right. So he opens it up, and he goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, let's compare them. Let's see if they're the same Bible, same publisher, when they were written, same religion. Let's make sure that they're the same. And he goes, all right. So we open up, we compare them, we find out it's the same publisher. His is 7 years newer than mine. He got his at a Christian bookstore in Madison, Wisconsin, and I got mine at a Christian bookstore in Lakeland, Florida. So we get that far, and we're like, and we agree, it's the same Bible, same publisher, should be the same. He goes, all right, now what do you want to do? I said, open up. I said, pick a verse or something. He goes, well, you pick one. I said, well, I really don't know any offhand. You pick one. He's like, all right. So he opens his Bible up, and he goes to it, and he goes, now what do you want to do? I said, read a sentence out of one of them things are, all right, shrugs his shoulders again. He reads it. He goes, now what? He looks back up at me. He goes, all right, now what do you want to do? I said, well, let's open mine up to the same one and let's compare them. I love how he's humoring me. He shrugs his shoulders again and, all right. So we open mine up and we read it. Bam, they changed one word. I was like, huh. I said, now what? He's like, now what? I said, well, you got a dictionary? He goes, yeah. I go, grab your dictionary. Let's see what the meaning of these words are. All right, he says. He goes in his other room. He comes back out with the dictionary. And we look up the meaning of that word. And then we look up the meaning of the word in mine. And totally opposite. Made that sentence, what it was saying, totally opposite of each other. He's like, well, now what do you want to do? I said, well, let's check some more. We checked some more, and we found a bunch more. Just one word. Some of them had two words that were changed in a sentence. And again, totally opposite of the thing. And I got discussing, this is, I've been noticing people arguing and stuff all over. This has got to be what's making them argue. And he's like, he agrees, and he's kind of bewildered. And he goes, I'm going to have to do some more research on this. And he goes, what made you think of that? I said, I don't know. It just came over me. I just wanted to see. I've been trying to find the truth for a really long time, and talking to people from all over the world with different religions, and I don't know. It just popped in my head. He goes, well, that's very interesting. I'm glad you showed me that. And so he said he was going to do some more research, and I never seen him again. I kind of wonder where he's at today. But anyway, that was my story for there. 96. Went through a living hell. I felt like I was getting karma from some of the things they did in Florida, because I was a little horror dog down there. And like I said, I met a lot of people, a lot of girls too. I was bodybuilding and things. But anyway, yeah, I learned a lot from everybody, which was a blessing in disguise. So let's see. 2003 comes around. Well, yeah, then I'm living in Crandon, and just walking into my place on County Highway B there in a trailer on 11 acres. I was just walking into the trailer. It's a nice starry night. And I always want to say something else too. I always noticed this. We were always looking for the North Star, but North Star was always the biggest, brightest star. But why was I seeing a big, bright object in the east? And over the years, it was getting bigger and brighter. And even at this time, when I was living in Crandon here, I was looking at it again. It was bigger and brighter, actually. But anyway, I just remember walking in the house one time and I saw that. I was like, what in the hell is that? Because it's just getting brighter. But I never bothered to check, see if it was Venus or what. But like I said, it was getting bigger. But anyway, I was walking in one night, and it was a nice starry night, and I see this white orb coming through the sky from the east heading towards the west. It was almost right above me, a little north. And it was coming in, and all of a sudden, bam, it stopped, and then shot off back out into space. I was like, what in the hell was that? No big deal. Go in, kind of forget about it. But, I brought it up from time to time in the future if the subject ever came up. And then I moved to Wisconsin Rapids. It's pretty interesting stuff here. Well, I'm living down there, somewhere in this area. I'm just using this picture for an example, but it was a blue. I remember one day I was looking up. It was still kind of a blue sky. I didn't really was looking, but I saw a jet coming towards me, and it sprayed a short line like this and stopped. And I watched the whole thing from right when it started, because that's what caught my eye. Right when I was looking up. Sprayed a little line and then stopped and then flew over me. And I was like, huh. First thing I thought was, must have hit a cold spot. And I carried on. Kind of forgot about it. But I remember seeing it. I'll never forget it. But thought I hit a cold spot. So anyway, I move into this house here. Here I am, I think I was 41 years old. I moved into this house. I started a trucking company. I went through a lot of shit, like I said, and I hit depression. So instead of being depressed, I went to work. I went driving truck. I was by myself all the time for like 3-4 years. I built this trucking business. I was buying and selling old Mack dump trucks and to the guys overseas in Nigeria. I had things going on. I got custody of my kids. Things started getting better. Just got myself out of the very rough. Got the kids going, and I'm doing good. Got a Harley, I'm living life large. You can see how happy I am there. Things are going great. I hit rock bottom, bounced right back up. Depression. I mean, I had kids. It was just a lot of things to deal with. But I found the answer in just building a business. It worked out well. But anyway, as I was living in that house in Wisconsin Rapids, it was an old farmhouse. Throughout the 8 years that I was there, I saw what appeared to be an old man with salt and pepper hair to his shoulders, flannel shirt, and bib overalls. That's why I thought it was an old man. And shorter than me. I saw him 3 times. A girlfriend moved in at the time. She saw him twice. She did some weird stuff. I don't know. She was into black magic or something. Go figure, right? Or something. I don't know. Ouija boards and whatever. But anyway, she played around. I never really saw the ghost again, but I was too busy anyway. There's some stories to when I seen this ghost too. But anyway, I saw him. Anyway, a couple years before, or a year or so before I was moving out of there, I was selling some things. And this older gentleman stopped in. We were looking at this little mini bike he wanted to buy for his grandson. Little 5-horse motor on it, whatever. Looking at it. We're walking back through the yard, and he asked me a question. He's like, "Hey, was that your grandmother that owned this house?" I was like, "No, I'm just a renter. I guess she passed away, and he bought the property and he's trying to sell it now, but well, I'm just a renter." I was like, "Hey," he's like, "What?" I said, "Did you know her?" He's like, "Yeah, oh yeah, I used to come here all the time and have coffee with her. We sat around, and her husband died, and she was here, and then she passed away." I said, like, "Did she die in the house here?" He's like, "Yeah, she passed away in the house." I said, "No shit." I said, "What'd she look like?" He's like, "Well, she's a little shorter, and like old farm woman. She had dark hair." I said, "Did it have a little bit gray in it?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Salt and pepper?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Shoulder length?" He's like, "Yeah." She wore, it's like, "What's she wearing?" He's like, "Well, she wore bib overalls a lot." I said, "Really? With a flannel shirt?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. Yep. Just looked like a farm." I said, "Really?" I said, "You ain't going to believe this, but I've seen her 3 times. I thought it was a him." I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, no, I believe you." He goes, I don't doubt that one bit. She died right there in the house, whatever. And I was like, and right away I just thought to myself, holy cow, I just realized we still exist after we die. I mean, I've seen this with my own eyes. Seeing is believing, right? Well, I finally got to see something, besides something weird in the sky, which I only saw a few times. But anyway, duly noted. I'll never forget it, especially seeing her. And I'll never forget the conclusion that I came to. Perfect sense, right? I mean, you pass away, there you are. You're like without the meat suit. But as I'm living at that house, I'm sitting there, and this neighbor I just met comes over once in a while, but he stops me and he's like, "Hey, you want to buy this?" I'm like, "What is it?" It's in a box. It's night vision. I said, "Really?" I said, "Let me check it out." I checked it out, blah, 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 and bought it from $250, brand new. Holy shit. Cool. He tried buying it back for me later, but I'm like, no, I'm keeping this. But anyway, I used it a few times. It was pretty neat. Worked pretty good. This thing would come in handy later. Absolutely. But, so that happened. A friend of mine, Kyle's here. Moved to Rome, Wisconsin. I think I can let this video roll out here. I'm moving to this house. It took us a year and a half. I got custody of my 2 kids, my son and his girlfriend, and I think she was pregnant. They were living with me at this house in Rapids. But anyways, look, for a year and a half, kept missing out on homes, missing them by a day, blah 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 blah. And finally, this house showed up, and we moved in here. It was perfect. It was on the lake. It was comfortable. It was big. It was roomy. It was everything that we needed. But hold on a second here. Just about done with my video. You were? Yeah, like 5 minutes. Then I can.
Made that shit out into the woods.
What? Huh?
That truck.
Oh, did you?
Fuck yeah.
Nice. Let me quick finish this. It'll take me a few minutes, and I can save it.
Yeah, I made a bit through the fucking woods, everything. Like, it'd start getting stuck, hit the gas a little bit, and go right down to the fucking dirt and jump right out. No fucking problem at all.
I figured them tires were gonna be pretty good.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
They're fucking nice. Go right over the fucking top of the fucking, you know how snowplows plow and got that big ridge on your side of your driveway? Go there and talk the top of all that shit.
Yeah. I'm sure you can handle some. Alright, let me quick finish this. I forgot where I was at. Sorry about that. My friend was here. But this is a house. A lot of things happen outside these doors. So just kind of look at them. Let's see. My daughter saw something right here one night. But this house is where... Oh yeah, we were seeing shadow objects. We moved in and all of us were seeing shadow objects out of the corner of our eyes right away. We all agreed. But we didn't think anything of it. We were very busy. And but we were all seeing it. Alright, for the next video, get ready because there's a lot of stuff that's happened. So stay tuned because things are going to get really interesting now. And we'll talk to you later. What up?